Hello everyone, welcome to Self-Knowledge. Today we are having lecture number 40 of this set of 50 lectures of the Phase A of the Self-Knowledge course. And today we will be talking about the sacrifice for humanity. And the objective of talking about this topic will be that we know the importance of the third factor for the revolution of the consciousness and that we delve into this factor. Throughout the lectures, we have seen that to really achieve the revolution of our consciousness, to reach the awakening of 100% of our consciousness, and to achieve the intimate self-realization of our being, three factors are required. And they are the factors that are going to make this possible. The first one is the psychological death, which is what allows us to free the 97% of our consciousness that is currently trapped in all our ongoing conditionings, and is what will allow us to purify our sexual creative energy. The second one is the spiritual birth that allows us to create the existential bodies of the being, what will allow us to have presence in consciousness in the different dimensions of nature, and we are going to do that through the practice of the suprasexuality. And the third factor, which is the sacrifice for humanity, is what will allow us to de-egoize ourselves and awaken love, which is the only love of the absolute. And it is precisely in this third factor that we are going to deepen today. Well, sacrifice for humanity. What is? Actually, it is selflessly given knowledge to all humanity. Every work that we do in favor of humanity is valuable. However, greater than any physical help that we can do to someone and that could help them improve their existence in some aspect for a short period of time, greater than that is that we give that person the knowledge that can allow him to free himself from all the intrinsic causes of his sufferings and his ills, and that can allow him to free himself from this wheel of samsara and to achieve the integration with his own divine being. The term sacrifice can be broken down into sacra officio, that is from the Latin root, and it is sacred work. And that sacred work is the work of wisdom, which is related to the force of the Father. We know that in our 3% of consciousness, we have three forces, and they are going to awaken, and we are going to be incarnating them as we work on the three factors for the consciousness revolution. When we die psychologically, we incarnate the force of the sun, which is will and justice. When we are born spiritually, we incarnate the force of the Holy Spirit, which is power. And by sacrificing ourselves for humanity, by transmitting knowledge to all humanity, we incarnate the force of the Father. The work of the Father is that of teaching, that of giving wisdom. When we teach the other brothers of humanity the way to self-realization, we intimately incarnate the force of the Father. It is evident that all humanity ignores the reason of their existence. People have no idea why they were born. No one has told them. They live in a state of hypnotism, totally fascinated with the things of the world, with the things of the personality, and pursuing subjective goals, and their consciousness is completely asleep. And when we really know it, when we already know what is the reason of our existence, we have the responsibility to teach the other brothers of humanity what is the reason for existence, why we were born, what are the possibilities of being that we all have? How can we integrate with our own being so that each one has the possibility of working on himself, but always respecting their free will? We have all come to this physical manifestation with the same purpose, and that is to know ourselves. And just as at some point this knowledge have we found this useful to us, and we've been experiencing this knowledge. Likewise, there are many people with those same spiritual yearnings who are totally unaware of the path of self-knowledge, and there love begins to develop in us when we begin to awaken in us that desire to help others. But it happens that normally in the term sacrifice, we see suffering because we are 100% egocentric. And that force of egoism makes it hard for us to do conscious things for others. The ego, and from it comes egoism, will always oppose us to sacrifice for others. The normal thing would be that sacrificing ourselves for others is very simple. But we see that it really gets complicated because within us we carry not just one egoist, but millions of egoists pointing in different directions. Each one of our ways of being has its particular interest and only cares about the satisfaction of its desires. And it is actually our ego what separates us from each other. That, the ego, the I, the myself, that selfishness. And in addition, we have within us the self of fear, which is not one fear, but millions of fear that don't allow us to serve selflessly. We are afraid of what they will say, of how they will see me, if they will accept me or not, if I make a mistake. And so, thousands of fears that don't allow us to develop love. And love is always seen in our deeds, in our actions. And the lack of love, as a result of the fear, can be seen in our omissions. And when we begin to sacrifice ourselves for humanity, we automatically begin to de-egoize ourselves. De-egoize, that is an unusual word, but the word de-egoize means to stop being egoist, to stop being selfish, or to share what we have with others. If we really want to advance on this path, we must eliminate the ego and the selfishness in us, and the key is actually the sacrifice for humanity, sharing with others the most valuable thing that we have. And what is the only thing that we truly have? What is our real patrimony? Actually, it is our knowledge, the wisdom that allows us to revolutionize, liberate, and self-realize ourselves in one existence. If we reflect on this, if we value what we have, we will realize that this knowledge couldn't be bought with all the gold in the world. And when we share it with other people, we are stopping being selfish. We are giving others the possibility that they can self-realize too. And internally, any effort that we make to bring knowledge to others is of a great value. But however, there are certain conditions to deliver this knowledge to humanity. And let's see what are the conditionings or the conditions for the sacrifice for humanity. The first is that we must deliver this knowledge for free. Never charge either directly or indirectly, never charging for teaching. If it is charged, it is not a sacrifice but a business, and all religions made that mistake. And if you start asking for a donation or a contribution or a tithe or whatever, sooner or later you end up diverting the objective and the reason why the teaching is delivered. The second condition is that knowledge must be delivered to everyone without distinctions of sex, color, social class, wealth, race, whatever. All of humanity are brothers and sisters, and we come with the same purpose. And one, sleep, doesn't even have the ability to distinguish who is already mature to assimilate the knowledge. Sometimes the least that one believes is the one who needs it most. And the third condition is that we must always respect the free will of those to whom we give the knowledge. We must understand from now that we must not convince anyone. We must tell them, but not beg them. Whoever is not prepared will not be able to start the path, and everyone must convince himself. We need to be clear about that. And the fourth condition is to deliver it pure, without adding other things that are not part of this knowledge. There are three factors and nothing else, and we must not modify it. We are asleep, and we cannot alter what awakened beings have organized. Each of the clues given in each of the topics for the awakening of consciousness were ordered for that purpose. So we must not take away or hide anything, because this would be adulterating the knowledge. And this actually happened with the Christians, who hid the mysteries of the sex, of the supersexuality. So they castrated the birth factor. And nor should we mix it with any other knowledge, for this would be to adulterate it, and it wouldn't longer be this knowledge. Then we see that it is a duty to share this knowledge with everyone. But let's see some of the reasons to sacrifice ourselves or humanity, and let's reflect a little on each of them. We talk about the importance of de-egoize ourselves to overcome selfishness and fear. And the ego keep us vibrating at the lowest levels, and actually selfishness and fear like submerges and separate us. So if we want to ascend to ever higher levels of consciousness, we have to start vibrating with the law of love. But love is in our actions, not so much in what we tell when we tell another that we love him, or in what we feel. We're feeling very nice things in relation to another person, but in the conscious effort that we make to actually try to help that person. So this is a labor of love, and a labor of love feeds on love. And love is in the actions. We must understand that. If we don't do conscious works for others, we don't awaken love. And each one of the sparks that we release with the psychological death must awaken love and learn to serve others. Another important reason to sacrifice ourselves or humanity is to have the divine law in favor. And those who love, those who seek to help others internally are always helped, because of what one gives, one receives. Likewise, if we want wisdom, we must give wisdom. If we want to awaken consciousness, we must try to help others to awaken consciousness. On the other hand, the one who has and doesn't give what he has, even the little he has, will be taken from him. And it is that when we already have knowledge, we have a huge responsibility, and that responsibility is to share it. Actually, the selfish act of having knowledge, of having light, and not sharing it with others generates a terrible karma, and it is blindness. Usually, that is the karma of those who had the knowledge and hid it. Then the light is also hidden from them. Because internally, the light represents wisdom. Therefore, that is actually the reason why some people are born blind or with vision problems, and other times it is, or the karma is like an internal darkness, an inability to see clearly in the internal worlds, or blindness, let's say, in the astral projection. Another reason, and it is a very important one, is that through the sacrifice for humanity, we make the merits of the heart that allow us to advance in our inner work. So, the sacrifice allows us to advance faster in the process of creating the existential bodies of the being, since a person who sacrifices himself for humanity can be born 10 times faster than the egoist. And it also helps us to advance faster in the work of the psychological death, since each one of ourselves has its own karmic death. And if we want to eliminate them, we will have to pay what they owe. Therefore, if we are generating dharma by helping others, we will not get stuck in the process of elimination of a defect. And also, as we saw in the lecture where we talk about the laws of karma and dharma, every time that we let our defects manifest instead of our consciousness, we are generating karma, since our psychological eyes always lead us to make mistakes and harm others and harm ourselves. And if we want to do the work of liberating ourselves in this existence, we must pay the karma of 7 existences. Therefore, when we help others, we gain dharma or cosmic money with which to pay our karmic debts, and pay them with love, so as not to have to pay them with pain or through illnesses, through crisis, etc. In addition, when we sacrifice ourselves for others, we receive strength and we receive merits for the different practices. For example, meditation, or to remember our past lives through retrospections, or to achieve easily the conscious astral projection, and to be able to access certain places in the astral world, such as temples of wisdom, and also to have the right to carry out certain investigations for which they often require to make merits for those investigations. And in general, sacrifice for humanity help us to deepen our knowledge, since making the effort to understand and to study the different topics and making the effort to teach them help us to understand them better each time, so that we don't forget them, and so each time we go like deepening in the comprehension of the different topics while we are awakening our consciousness. This also help us not to lose strength and not to fall into entropy. One may believe that having seen one of these topics once is enough. But the truth is that every time we see each topic again, we see it with a higher level of understanding, and our being allows us to understand more and more aspects of the same subject, and therefore this knowledge never becomes something routine. even if they are the same subjects from phase A and the same 25 subjects from phase B, because each time we go like deeper into them. And as we also apply them in our lives and we verify them, so we like every time understand them better. And with the knowledge that we are receiving directly from our being, we are actually feeding our soul. It is interesting to reflect on that famous phrase that is part of the prayer that is known as the Our Father. And that is when we say, "Give us this day our daily bread." Well, if we see the astral symbology, bread internally represents wisdom. So when one says our daily bread is referring to the wisdom that comes from the Father daily to our hearts. So when one pleads with Him, give us our daily bread, we are asking for wisdom to be able to feed our souls, because not only physical food is lived, but also those manifestations that come from the superior worlds, the two pineal and the pituitary glands, through a secret path, through a very special door, can send the Father's wisdom to our heart, but that you have to actually feel it, you have to live it. And now, and to finish this lecture, let's see the ways to make sacrifice for humanity. Well, sacrifice has two great aspects. One is fishing and the other is teaching. Fishing is looking for people who are interested in receiving the knowledge. And we do that when we do some kind of advertising, be it virtual or physical advertising, or when we share this lecture, why not? And when we create some publicity ourselves, or when we share the publicity that those who teach do, inviting people, talking to them about the knowledge, etc. That is vision. And teaching, well, is already preparing and studying the lectures to become an instructor and to start teaching them. Then one begins really receiving the lectures, later inviting others to receive the lectures, talking about knowledge to our acquaintances, and then to all the people we can. Later, we began to study the topics, to go deeper into them. The lectures are actually based on a book where the 50 lectures of Phase A are synthesized, and yeah, we can gladly give it to those who are already interested in beginning to deepen the study of these topics, and to those who feel the desire to start teaching them. Then we began to teach the lectures either by virtual or face-to-face in a meeting place. And so we are spreading the knowledge first locally, and then we are taking it to more places, to other countries, etc. And the most important form of sacrifice is actually practicing the knowledge, so that we can awaken our unconsciousness, so that the knowledge that we are delivering is deeper and deeper each time. A great sage once said that the greatest gift that we can give to humanity is that of our own transformation. So actually, practicing the knowledge is a great way to sacrifice, because we are going to give a better knowledge. And we see that there are many people who walk the world with a spiritual longing, with an internal need to find a path that leads them to self-knowledge in a practical and direct way. And there are many who receive the knowledge. However, there are very few who remain. And why this happened? Because although this knowledge is in the physical world totally free, in the internal worlds, the right to receive and to maintain this knowledge is very expensive. And as I explained, internally, the rights are paid with dharma, that is, with love. And if we don't have the dharma, the merits to continue advancing, we start losing strength. The knowledge doesn't make sense to us anymore, and we end up going back to being swallowed by life, or to continue looking for some other path that gives us an easier method to get to heaven. Therefore, the formula to stay and to move forward is to start doing as little or as much as we can to do to bring knowledge to others, to share with others that light that we are internally receiving, which is or which are our understandings, so that light grows more and more every day until we are fully enlightened. And well, this has been today's lecture. I actually hope it has served to deepen in the importance of the third factor for the revolution of consciousness. And as always, I will invite you to our next lecture that will be next Sunday at the same time through this page, in which we will talk about two very interesting practices. One is the dance of the dervishes, and the other is the transmutation of cosmic forces. But I'm not going to advance what they are about. Next Sunday, we will talk about these two practices. So thank you all very much. You know that we are always in contact here through the page. So thank you for watching the video, and see you next time. Ciao, ciao.